Please become a Patreon and support the show. Merci.
And now our host, Stephen Lee Morris.
Globally recognized as one of Hollywood's first openly gay actors, Michael Kearns followed that disclosure with his own admission that he was HIV positive. Michael has been around the Los Angeles theater community for now over 50 years. In that time, he has written and performed a series of one-person shows that feature a gallery of characters that bring light to the prior pandemic, the HIV and AIDS crisis. He has written with skill and authority. Michael has also continued his advocacy work, working with agencies that help the homeless find homes. And finally, Michael is an artistic associate with the Skylight Theater. Michael Kearns, welcome to Animal Farm.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
You have a newly published collection of 3 of your plays by F-Stop Publications. Congratulations on that. You are a distinguished performer and writer. You perform in your own solo performances, which usually entail a gallery of idiosyncratic characters. And through those characters, you attempt to create a portrait of the cultural moment in which those characters live. You have a storied history. I wanted to take it back at the beginning because there is a clash between fact and fiction, which informs your own reputation, that started really when you were off, as you put it, off the bus from the Goodman School in Chicago. You had studied there for 3 years and you came from St. Louis to Chicago, and then you came straight to LA. And then you were involved, will you take it from there?
With a hoax, one of the biggest hoax, thrown at the American public. And it worked. No one could possibly believe it. My lover at the time wrote a book based on the popularity of the happy hooker. And this book was called The Happy Hustler. He wrote it in a weekend and sent it to the same publisher. That publisher gobbled it up like that. And they came to him and said, send us your picture. And he said, oh, no. I can never have my picture on that book. I'm not umphy enough, or whatever word he used. That's my word, umphy. And he said, but my lover, my boyfriend, he's the perfect one. So I'll get a picture from him. How much will you pay him? $250. So I thought, oh, $250. My picture's going to be on the cover of a book. Sold. They sent a picture of me. They're doing the production of the book, and they say, could we have a picture of him for the back cover of the book too? Oh yeah, what do you pay him? Oh, another $100. Oh, sold. So now this book is coming out with my picture on the cover and the back cover. So then somebody in marketing said,
so this is a book about hustling.
Yeah, made up from cloth.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm living with him for years. So of course, my personality and my, whatever is going to seep into this book the way anybody's would writing a fictitious book with somebody lolling about and lounging about. would their force of their personality would get into the pages as he's typing and on a typewriter. So eventually that somebody in marketing says they're calling from a talk show in New York and they want the writer of the book to appear on the talk show. Will he, the writer of the book, do the talk show with you? No, but Michael will. Michael can do it. I said, what am I supposed to do? Are you joking? I said, he said, read the book. You're an actor. You can play the part. So I read the book like I would be reading a script. And I go on this talk show. It was called, I can't remember, but she was very popular in New York. She was a New York morning talk show. I'm scared to death. And I go on and I'm a rousing hit. And of course, the people in marketing at Warner Books in New York say, this is gold. This kid can do talk shows. So then they get me on Phil Donahue, The Tomorrow Show, blah, 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 blah. And for the next year, I promote this book and essentially become
the fictitious character.
Yes, including hustling, making lots of money. I wasn't making any money on the book because he was paying me something like 10% of the book. He did nothing. He wrote the book in a weekend. I was out on the road like a demon. Of course, I was getting my narcissistic
well, there you go. That's the
I admit it.
That's the Achilles heel, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the sad tragedy of it all. And in retrospect, of course, it was a tragedy. It slowed down my career. It made me, I said at one, for a while, I was the person everybody wanted at their party. And then I was the person nobody wanted at their party because I was a joke. I just went to a joke. And so then. So
what's happening through this fiction, behavior and even a career is attributed to it that just didn't exist.
That's right. That did not exist. So, and I became, I know it sounds like the Twilight Zone, and it was, but I became so confused about my identity. Like, who was I? I was called his name sometimes, although I tried never to answer to that name. I always maintained my name. And then I tried to act. I tried to do some acting roles, and it was horrible. But finally, I started working my way back, and I worked my way back in the theater right here down the street.
Well, where's the street? What theater and what street?
Kenmore. Were you here then?
Oh yeah.
Smitty.
Oh yeah.
I did T-shirts. I did Robert Patrick's play.
That's near where the old Theater of Note used to be.
Was it?
Yeah, on Kenmore. Yeah, before that building got destroyed in an earthquake.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I did it when Smitty sold cups of coffee. That was your ticket to get in.
That's right.
And these T-shirts really put it on the map because, and before that, 10 people were in the theater. We did T-shirts. There was a review that appeared in the LA Times, John Mahoney, and it was this incredible review. This was after I'd been through this entire Happy Hustler experience.
So this would have been early 80s, late 70s?
79.
79, okay.
79. Okay. I know that because that was the turnaround for me. The beginning of the turnaround. It still took longer, but I was accepted as an actor. I was looked at then as an actor. And then I did the first part of...
You got the stamp of approval from the LA Times.
We did. And people in line around the block. And then following that, I did the International Stud, first part of Torturing Trilogy. I was the first actor to do it out here. So the reaction to that was even greater than T-shirts. So I proved lightning did strike twice. And it was incredible to get my footing. In other words, here I am. I'm an actor. I'm not the Happy Hustler. I'm not that creature. I'm going to build. And it took 10 years or so. So, it took a lot to get in television, to do all those, to reinvent myself.
You were kind of the unwitting victim of a smear campaign.
In a way. My own, though. I want to keep...
But you participated in it.
I did. I was a willing participant.
Yeah. So it's a little more nuanced than a smear campaign.
Yes, it is. And the time, you could say that the 70s was part of it, or the 80s. It happened right at the time that sort of thing could happen. It couldn't happen now. It happens now every day. They're all doing that now.
Do you recall what was the play that you did at Smitty's little theater on Canmore at that time?
Robert Patrick's T-shirts.
Okay.
Followed by the International Stud, which was part one of Torturing Trilogy.
Right.
Which was the two.
So you're doing other people's writing, and then you turn to writing yourself.
Absolutely. The first thing I wrote around, here's where I get back, but I wrote my first one-person show, which was called The Truth is Bad Enough. Oh, well, wait, that's it. I wish we had 17 hours here. My mother said that in court when my father was trying to prove that she was, couldn't take care of her kids. And he was saying that she was telling some story, some outlandish story about him, and he was telling an outlandish story about her hitting him. And she said, Your Honor, I am 5'2". He's 6'3". Do you really think that I could hurt him with my shoe? You've got all the evidence on me. The truth is bad enough. She said that in the divorce court. It's a great line, isn't it? It applies to so much. And that was the story about my participating in this hoax. I mean, there was enough on me if you wanted to get stuff on sexuality and wild boy and all that. The truth is bad enough. So anyway, that was my first solo show. And it was a wild mess, but it got it all out there. And I was able to write it down, and it wasn't a mess. I did it forever all over the country. And yes, that was the first thing I wrote. And then in '89 was Intimacies.
Intimacies, which is a huge breakthrough. You were one of the first actors, among the first stage actors in particular, to come out as HIV positive. You declared that. I'm just kind of, a medical condition is a private issue, I would think. What made you, what was the impulse behind making that public?
I think I'd become, at that point, so public about the Happy Hustler experience, about being gay. I lived my life in the public sphere, and I think I had X amount of fans, gay boys in particular, who sort of relied on my voice to navigate these waters. And I felt some responsibility. I thought, I can't be talking about all these characters who are HIV positive and talking about their plight and trying to make some sense of it when I was giving interviews and not admit my own.
So Intimacies has a gallery of a dozen characters, and they're not all HIV.
Each has 6. And then more Intimacies has another 6, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing.
So you were building it was your turn to create fiction and create truth out of fiction. But the difference is that your truth was actually true.
Yes. And that's what I've done in some form or another ever since Intimacies began. I mean, it's changed, and it isn't always HIV. And it's recently I've been doing a lot of work in the homeless specter, and but it always has that social, cultural bent.
Tell us what you're doing in the homeless sector and how it relates to your other work, because clearly you have evolved into an advocate, into a kind of social advocate through the theater.
Yes, it's all I kind of know, or it's what I know best. I know other things in the theater, but so now it just happened, sort of these jobs that I've been doing recently. I'll tell you what I've done the last week. I'm working with a photographer who's shooting various people who have just found housing through an organization, and they're moving into housing, many of them for the first time in 10 years, 15 years.
Is this part of the city program to get?
It's part of, I have it written down so I don't mess it up, Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. Okay. They're taking over, they're doing what a lot of people should be doing. They're taking over these huge buildings and turning them into either hardly any expense, affordable housing.
Yes.
Yes. So it's quite something. And I'm interviewing these people to have narratives next to photos that will be shown at a gallery or whatever. So it's exactly sort of what I know how to do, which is zero in very quickly, very intensely on these people's lives and distill them into, I could do them as monologues, some of them. I mean,
yes, yes.
So they're harrowing stories. I mean, you just cannot conceive of what's happened to some of these people. And to humanize them and, let the public know that they're not all drunks and they're not all, there's a lot of mental illness, but, how are you going to treat this mental illness when someone's living in a tent? It's hard enough to get me to be efficacious about my medication.
Yes.
let alone to get somebody who's living in a tent.
Yes.
So, and to show that they have children, and they have mothers, and they have fathers, and they have people they love and who love them. So I've been writing these, and I'm doing about 15 or 20, and it's grueling work, but it's that actor, writer, empathetic is the word.
So I'm just curious, you're writing these kind of mini biographies to go with a picture that's going to go in a gallery. Are you performing these?
No.
Yeah.
And then previous to this, I did another organization called the Corporation for Supportive Housing, a different organization, but not dissimilar. And they did, how they're always doing different symposiums and trying to take care of their workers. So they were doing these for frontline workers, and they had 4 different frontline workers talk to the other frontline workers about their experiences. Those frontline workers go through, you can't believe. And I worked with 4 frontline workers telling their stories. Didn't want them just standing at a podium giving their story, looking at a 3x5 card, reading their story. So I worked with each of them for 2 weeks maybe on their biography, going to their childhood, talking about why they became a frontline worker, what was it that led them to that kind of work, and so that we really dug. So it was more performative. It was a performance, but it was performative, and it had a beginning and a middle and an end and an arc, and it was highly emotional. So they were giving an emotional story, not just these
just factoids.
Yes. So that was really exciting to work with these people who were not actors at all, but could tell these brilliantly tragic and funny sometimes, but I call it horrible funny stories.
Final question. You're working as an artistic associate with the Skylight Theater. What are you doing there?
Well, I'm Gary's, one of his extra eyes, or
Gary being Gary Grossman, the artistic.
Yes. I've been involved with Gary for 30 years. I did Dream Man there, Jim Pickett's play, 30 years ago, and then have been floating in and out of Gary's waters there ever since. I love Gary. And so I read a lot of the plays there, and I offer my advice, and I'm in the staff meetings every week, and I feel like I'm part of the fixtures there. I'm part of the skylight that opens up. I try to be.
Michael's book, Who's Afraid of Michael Kearns, contains 3 plays: Who's Afraid of Edward Albee, Bang Bang, and Bloodbound. It is available on F-Stop Productions. Michael Kearns, thank you so much for joining us.
This seemed like it was 3 minutes long.
We're good. I appreciate it
so much.
Next week, we're joined by performer Tracy Lay, who has worked with various companies in Southern California and across the country. The local companies include Troubadour Theater Company and Burgers of Ham and Playwrights Arena. Recently, Tracy was named the new artistic director of Ensemble Studio Theater Los Angeles, and she'll be discussing her plans and hopes for that company.